Welcome everyone to this Saturday for back-to-back sessions on information and communication technology, one of the themes that we are covering under the NEP orientation and sensitization program. I'll be, giving this presentation in the first session, and then Professor Hiten Chaudhary will be joining us for the second session. Okay, so I can get started. You've already been introduced to me. I joined the Astronomy Center for Educators here at IUCA about I think 6 years back, or rather 5 years back, and it was mainly focused on astronomy education as the higher education level to the faculty members under the Madan Mohan Malviya mission teachers trainings program. And then it has now, from time to time, there are programs that come under the Astronomy Center for Educators. You'll see earlier it used to have something called a Teaching Learning Center under a different project. And from time to time, there are ARPIT courses, again, refresher course for teachers that we conduct under our center. And only recently, beginning last year in November, we started this NEP program as well as one of the things that we do in our center. But most of the focus, most of the courses other than the NEP orientation and sensitization is on core astronomy topics, targeting teachers in higher education, in colleges and universities. Many of you must know of the structure of this MMTTCs that are there in across the country in various colleges and universities. So during, as part of this, running the Astronomy Center for Educators and offering these courses, we have adopted quite a lot of ICT tools as well that have made our management and offering of the courses much easier over time, especially because soon after our center started, we had this lockdown for over a year where we had to conduct a lot of courses online, continue to conduct our courses online. And that is one of the reasons we had to adopt a lot of technology. And I'm going to talk quite a few things about the strategies that we adopted during that time, and we continue to use them as well. Similar things many of you would have started as well in your teaching experience, both during the pandemic, before and after. We will take a break in between the presentation where you could think of technologies that you use that make your teaching and management of the courses much better, and share it with the colleagues so that we have a broader set of things that we can think of for some of the problems we all face while offering courses. Towards the end too, some of you can chip in and just share your experience and also talk about specific tools that you find quite useful in your experience. So this presentation is available online at this short link, bit.ly/NEPOS 2024 ICT, just one word. So you can access it whenever you want. I don't have to separately put it in a folder and send it to you. You can follow along too if you want. This presentation itself is fairly short. There are links inside the presentation that will take you to other articles where it will, as we go on, you will know. So there are these tutorials and some information articles that I've written that could be useful as well. But everything is available under this inside this presentation. So what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about the context under which I'm going to talk more broadly about the tools of ICT as it pertains to the National Education Policy 2020 document. We will discuss some of the challenges that we face and what are some of the ICT solutions that can help us with those challenges. Particularly as a tool, I'll focus on Moodle, which is a very great course management tool, and many of you might have already adopted it in your colleges and universities. After that, I'll talk about Gitbook briefly. This, again, one of the tools for easy online publishing of content. Then we can, of course, have a discussion on productivity tools. In between all this, I'll also discuss some of the assessment strategies that we adopted and give a flavor of what sort of courses that we run and why some of the ICT tools helped us run it more effectively. So the context, if you read the document of it, it talks about a lot of different things. And although it may not go into a lot of detail, that is both, I mean, it's more of a feature than a bug, where it allows some sort of flexibility in deciding what works and what doesn't work under the general idea that is listed down over there. Over the years, one could find out by somewhat trial and error or learning from emerging technologies and so on. But what is the central idea of the document and this particular thing is to recognize that a knowledge economy is what we should be aiming for. And a digitally empowered society is more likely well suited to develop a knowledge economy where much of the national output in terms of GDP or is through research and development, directly or indirectly is linked to that. So the vision is great, and it outlines some of the things one needs to focus on to achieve such a knowledge-based economy. It also recognizes the pace of technological development. This, I'm sure, all of us are painfully aware as we have seen the development of technology all these years, where the technology development doesn't happen in a very linear fashion. The technologies that the amount of progress that one made just before the 2000s, for instance, over a course of, let's say, 20 years, happens in the course of, let's say, 5 years after 2020. And nowadays, you see new technologies, disruptive technologies come about pretty much every year or every 2 years. And the adoption rates also increase pretty fast. So for higher education or for a government body to function effectively, one has to recognize that the technology is going to change pretty fast, and to figure out ways to keep abreast with the developments in technology. To this end, the document also talks about setting up a National Educational Technology Forum, the job of which will be to actually test the emerging technologies and try to carefully plan how to implement it in higher education for the benefit of learners and teachers. So what are some of the educational sector technological interventions that are outlined in the NEP? One is, of course, the fundamental one is improving the teaching and learning process itself for both the teachers and the learners, including the evaluation process. Again, all this is in view of how ICT can be leveraged to improve these aspects of education. The other is teacher preparation and professional development itself, which is, of course, required for exactly the same reasons that I pointed out earlier, that the pace of technology changes at a fast rate. Then the teachers need to keep abreast of these developments as well. And that requires teacher training at regular intervals. And these centers like the programs such as the MMTTP or centers like the Astronomy Center for Educators are developed precisely for that reason. Third, another aspect is access to education, both in terms of hardware and software. And most of you would, of course, would have encountered the problem even in this NEP program that we are running. We do see the limitations of hardware, for instance, that does not always allow people to have a very reliable connection or access to the presentations, for instance, due to the hardware that they have or the network that they have and so on. So that is a harder one to address all across the nation and ensure that everybody gets pretty much equal access to the educational content that is available. But that is something that needs to be recognized and addressed over the years. And then overall streamlining of educational planning and management and the administration of it is also addressed in the document. Particular attention is given to disruptive technology. It pops up in multiple places within this theme. And again, this is not something new. Disruptive technologies come. We have seen probably a whole bunch of disruptive technologies in our lifetimes, and it just seems to be the frequency at which disruptive technologies come up themselves seems to be speeding up. So then it also then talks about optimizing and expanding the ICT initiatives, the existing ones, so that it addresses some of the other themes that we already discussed about. For instance, providing alternate modes of quality education, which is not just restricted to the classroom teaching, but involving internet resources or collaboration across regions in the best way possible, or in um, the best way, as long as it benefits the quality of education. It is something that needs to be explored. The other thing is what we heard from yesterday from Professor Aniket Sule quite a lot in detail, is about introducing multidisciplinary disciplinary programs and blended learning, which again ICT initiatives are going to play a key role in allowing this. In this session, for instance, we will focus on a few things. Now, obviously, we won't be able to talk about all the aspects of it. Of course, Professor Hiten Chaudhary, when he joins, he will be addressing some of the things related to ICT too. So between the two programs, we may have quite a lot of coverage under this theme. So here we will especially focus on the e-learning platforms that already are playing a big role in terms of connecting educators and learners across the globe. I'm sure you yourself must have taken courses online that is conducted by universities or colleges in a different country altogether, for instance. And many of you might have offered courses as well through these e-learning platforms to a broad set of learners, not just students from your college or university. So, I mean, this has rather become fairly routine now, I would say, in many cases. We'll also discuss about maintaining digital repositories of content, which allows for some amount of standardization of the work too, and generally improving the efficiency with which we share and provide content to the learners. Again, teacher training is a big part of it, and this course itself is designed for that. We will also talk about online strategies, online assessment strategies, sorry, and blended mode of learning, where the online component is a significant part of of the learner's process. Then all this together, eventually the goal is to have some standardized content, use technology, leveraging technology for very clear improvement in the whole pedagogical process. So at this point, I would like to point out a slightly philosophical issue of our relationship with technology. I mean, it's very easy to get carried away by all the new technologies that come up. Not only they tend to be distractive, but also one can easily start focusing too much on optimizing some technology rather than focusing on what is at core the goal of education, which is teaching and learning. And technology can only help you to some extent, but eventually the content is something that, I mean, compelling content is something that requires quite a lot of hard work. Technology can help you here and there to some extent, but the overall learning, how effective your program is going to be, depends a lot more on the content than the technology that you use to communicate or spread the information. And humans have a bad track record of maintaining a good relationship with technology. Any sort of abundance seems to create abuse of a certain technology a lot more than the benefits, oftentimes, that many of you must have seen in your life as well. So it's important to focus on the core of what is it we want to get done, and use technology as and when, only as and when it is proved to be beneficial to some extent. Of course, that you could experiment with various technologies, but technology just for the sake of modernization or just for the sake of its use may not eventually serve a purpose. So, okay, with that, I'll go on to more practical things, which is addressing some of the challenges that we face with ICT solutions. So one of the things that we here face too, and I'm sure I've heard many of the faculty members in colleges and universities complain about too, is the amount of administrative overhead. In this case, I'm talking more about administrative overhead related to course rather than the sort of things your college asks you to do um, for other purposes, for instance, for the general management of the university or college. But this is just for while running a course, what are the things that we need to do, which is not exactly about the content that is being delivered. So that is a problem, and we recognize that it does take a significant amount of time unless we adopt some effective strategies to manage our time. The other thing is we would like to, share quality content and ensure that, sorry, ensure that the content that we are putting it out there is up to a certain standard. That requires, of course, years of improving upon the content that you have initially created, trying to getting feedback from the students through various tools to ensure what is effective and what is not effective, and improving in the places where it is not effective, and continuing with the things that are in fact effective and sharing it more broadly. So regarding this, the key initiatives that I earlier talked about, which are part of the NEP, are there's e-learning platforms, having digital repositories for the content that you create, and pedagogy of the teachers themselves, and also the learners, and online assessment. All these things we will sort of touch upon. So when I talk about administrative overhead, what are the sort of things that, for instance, a course that we run will involve, and I'm sure for you too, it will involve, is just initially user management. To various extents, maybe your administration in your college takes care of a certain amount of them. But in any case, if you, in the future, let's say in blended mode, or you're offering a course that is not just taken by students who are physically there on campus in your university, but also people across the country, or in even different countries, then you have to maintain some sort of user management, where which includes both enrollment, maintaining a roster, managing how information is communicated to them, all sorts of course and course-related communication, initial syllabus to description of grades, and any the lecture schedule, and assessments, and assignments, and things like that. That is a routine part of the administrative, what I'm calling as the administrative overhead of running a course. There has to be obviously a repository, where a sort of central repository where every student of a particular course can go and look up the syllabus, course rules, policy, references, resource material that are already shared with them. Then there needs to be avenues for discussions. Again, this is something in an offline course where you have everybody, the teachers and the learners are in a face-to-face environment. This is something is achieved within the classroom. But there are, of course, even in that case, I'm sure you must have experience too. There are benefits to having discussions off the classroom. I assume nowadays, because of things like WhatsApp, oftentimes courses use such technology to ensure that discussions do not end within just the classroom, but are extended beyond that as well. There are various ways to tackle distribution of assignments, monitoring of quizzes, gradebook consolidation, and then once the course is over, archiving the course so that it can be retrieved and repurposed in the future if rerunning the course or revamping the course. So all these are just parts of the regular offering of some even a single course. So usually all this is managed in a distributed fashion. If they are not all available, if there is not a tool available that can take care of all of these, which is you would use some sort of spreadsheets for user management. To maintain list of learners and keeping track of various things related to them. You do communication and sharing of various resource material through email. Depending on, as I explained, depending on how the course is structured, you may or may not have various specifically designated areas for discussions. It may just be related in the classroom and nowhere else. But of course, you can have some sort of social messaging media to do that. Assignment distribution, again, email, gradebook consolidation happens in spreadsheets. Quizzes can happen in forms or on paper if it's an offline course. Then archiving, again, it's distributed in web pages, drives, or probably just on the computer. So at least during the pandemic, I remember many of them were using the whole suite of these tools that are available through Google. I think it's called the Google Workplace or even Google Classroom to do all of these together. But Moodle happens to be a lot more comprehensive and quite a lot more effective solution for overall management of course. It's free and open source, and it's pretty much a comprehensive platform to get done pretty much all the things that I listed down earlier. Okay, I see a message saying that Slack can be used for discussions. Yeah, that's true. That is a good alternative too, where we can share a lot of material. I think we can keep track of it much better on Slack. And it's quite popular now among students and teacher groups. Moodle allows for smoother communication centered on the course, where essentially it looks like a web page that is dedicated for the course with all these tools that are built in that web page for communication and taking quizzes, assignments, and so on, which we'll look into briefly. Yeah, so it integrates all aspects of the course very well in there. And overall, it when done properly, it saves a lot of time and makes management of the entire course much easier, especially if you're running, with fewer people or low manpower. So many of our courses, for instance, we are not a big team here at Astronomy Center for Educators. We were about 3 of us. Right now, we are just 2 of us. So we do conduct courses in collaboration with various faculty members, depending on the topic that we are offering. But management itself, it's pretty much handled by 2 people. So as I said, Moodle takes care of all these things that I listed. At this point, I will sort of change gears a bit and talk about some of the evaluation strategies or the courses and the evaluation strategies that we use here at Astronomy Center for Educators. If you have any questions, you can interrupt me at any time and offer your comments as well. So this is an article that I have written in Medium actually a few years back. The link is given in the presentation. As I explained, using the short link, you can get to it, bit.ly/evaluation ace. There are not much changes to it, so I didn't update it too much. We pretty much follow the same strategies as the ones that I'm going to explain right now. So, I mean, this was when we were sort of running this program. We were under a slightly, I mean, just in name, it was different. It was called the Teaching Learning Center of IUCAA, under the Astronomy Center for Educators. That is the reference here. So what are the sort of courses we used to run? This is just a small sample of the variety. There is a refresher course. Many of you would have attended similar things in the field that you work on. And these things, as you know, oftentimes it tries to cover a broad range of topics within that overall field. So if it's astronomy and astrophysics, it will try to cover various topics within astronomy and astrophysics. It's rarely, um, excuse me, it's rarely focused on a very narrow topic because it tries to essentially refresh the knowledge of the faculty members over a large range of topics in that field. And there are about 75 to 80 contact hours, which is mostly lectures. And in those sort of big programs covering a lot of different topics, we usually just have an online quiz-based assessment for those. But then we do like to conduct courses that are much more focused on various topics. For instance, we had a couple of such focused programs during that time, the first 2 years of our existence, where one was on, especially a technique-oriented course, but also talking about the fundamental physics principles on which those techniques are based, called the Introduction to Optical and Infrared Interferometry, an introductory course that was open to mostly faculty members, but of course, many of these programs we open it to research scholars, postdocs, and sometimes even undergraduate, master's student or maybe undergraduate students. But the main focus, the design of a course is with keeping faculty members in mind, or soon to be faculty members like postdocs and research scholars in mind. So here we could do a lot more because it was more focused. Then you can spend some time getting, trying to make creative assignments for it, quizzes, and have some sort of regular assessment and so on. And we had advanced courses as well, where it's mostly for PhD students and up, because it is focused more on the research aspects of a particular field, often going into papers and results from papers rather than relying on textbook. For instance, this particular course heavily relied on content outside the textbook, mostly from papers. And here also we could do a lot more focus on real life examples using data and so on, which I'll go into briefly. But again, making sure that the learning process is at the core of it, all this management of the course or designing of the course. There are other introductory courses that run from time to time, which is either focusing on a particular region or a particular college or university and the nearby ones and so on, where the course hours might be slightly lower. It's meant to be more of introduction than a refresher, for instance, where again it's broader but also more introductory. Where again, oftentimes we rely on online quiz-based assessment, a simple assessment for those. So many of these programs that we run, we get hundreds of participants registering for it, and about 50% of them regularly attending or finishing sufficient amount of quizzes and assignments. That is something, I mean, that is a fact. I think most of you would have noticed too with these programs that are announced very broadly and meant for a large fraction of people. So, what are the sort of assessments we tried for? Especially higher education, in my opinion, needs to focus a lot more on open book and extended time sort of quizzes rather than MCQs that are fact based or very simple ones, time restricted ones. Because much of what we learn is at a level where the more than recalling a fact, trying to apply a fact and trying to have some scientific reasoning and getting to a solution is more important than remembering or simple application of some of the facts one has learned. So this is one of the things we did for many of our focused courses or advanced courses. It has very obvious benefits, which is that it allows participants to go back to the source material, take some time, sit with it, and figure out the answers, rather than a just go no go sort of situation where either they know it or don't know it, and that decides their score in this quiz. It offers greater flexibility for them to attempt the quiz. So we open it in a way such that they can look at the quiz and come back anytime to solve any part of it. And this is a sort of freedom that such online portals do allow, where it's not just one time shared and it stays with them, but it's there in a central region where they can come back to it. They can answer something before they submit. They can come back later if they change their mind or learn something new, or their reasoning improved or whatever. They can change the answers and then decide to submit at the end before a deadline, which is usually uh, quite generous. So also it takes a lot of it simplifies the process for the person who is designing the course and offering the course. It gives flexibility in scheduling. One can schedule these things off and it runs like clockwork without one having to keep track of it minute by minute or open it and close it at the right times and so on. Obviously, it has everything that you do will have, which has benefits, will have drawbacks. In this case, for instance, there's no mechanism to avoid blindly copying off someone else. You can design all your course, your quizzes very cleverly so that they cannot easily find the answers directly by doing a Google search or even in the book, but they have to use some logical reasoning. But then they can always share that with their colleague, fellow students or colleagues, and then they can simply choose to give the same answer. We did not have that much of a problem with this because most of the way it will be distributed, as there will be rarely two colleagues who are taking the same course at the same time. Of course, these are also, we are dealing with faculty members. There's a higher level of integrity when it comes to this, I guess, when it comes to quizzes compared to students, maybe. But also, since many of them don't know who else they are working with, they don't always have a lot of, they don't have various venues where they can talk openly about this and try to get the answers from each other. Except in very rare cases, possibly when two people are taking it from the same place and they decided to work together. But that is something I guess you have to live with. Of course, there's another sort of drawback is the extra effort that is needed to come up with these questions. It won't, I mean, a simple MCQ is straightforward because you're giving them a very short amount of a period of time, not enough to go and look up in places. So you can give more straightforward questions, but here you have to think harder about what sort of questions they won't be immediately able to answer. At the same time, it will help them understand the topic that you have taught them. So, so of course, we focus on the quality of it foremost. The Moodle offers possibility of giving a wide variety of quiz formats, and we would choose something like a multiple selection option and put forth questions where um, the learners will have to, or the quiz takers will have to think hard about which are the options that are clearly incorrect and which are the ones that are clearly correct, and so on. So it offers a flexible way of partial grading as well. So it uses a format which I'll sort of explain in a little bit. But this is how you can set up questions in sort of a text format and allow it uses a markup which it can recognize the Moodle platform. It's called the gift format, where you set up the question and answers. You can give the grading that you associate with each correct answer or incorrect answer using these symbols. Again, the references for where one can learn this. One need not worry about it right now if it's completely new to them. But you can take off 50% of the point if some answer is clearly wrong. You can give them partial credit in increments as they choose more and more correct answers, and penalize them either very strictly or very lightly. It has a lot of options. It has various other standard formats which are not available in a general form application like Google Forms. It allows for numeric values that can be automatically evaluated. You can give it an answer, but you can set the answer with a certain range for a numerical answer, such as this one, so that as long as the quiz takers give an answer that is close enough, they will get it right. So, and also it you can set it up so that it can give instant feedback after the quiz is taken. For instance, it can show you a sample calculation. It tells you whether you're correct or not, but why you're incorrect if you're incorrect. And similar things for this multiple choice question, for instance. So we do have minimal quiz rules where, there will always be a deadline, even if it's generous. It gives a week or more every week for the weekly quizzes. And we'll ask them to, because many of the participants are teachers. We hope they take we'll ask them to take integrity pledge or uh, maintain honesty in the way they perform in the quizzes and work through the coursework. And it has worked out. We do run checks to ensure that people are not copying off each other, and especially in quizzes, especially in timed quizzes, whether people have worked together. But generally, we have seen that it's usually not a problem. But we have had cases where there are some infractions. Okay, so we do allow various forums where they can discuss course-related content, course-related doubts and questions they might have with other participants. And with us, we monitor those forums regularly too. We make special forums for different topics as well, if needed, not always. But we make it very clear that they're not supposed to ask or give direct answers to quizzes and assignments, but they are given enough freedom to discuss aspects of a concept if needed, which definitely helps, because eventually we want them to learn and understand things, not necessarily focus too much on how they perform in quizzes. Assignments in higher education, again, one of the reasons I took up this position was because I wanted to work on such things where I felt that one could improve the way we do assignments and assessment and just the learning process in higher education significantly. So, for instance, in this advanced course on pulsar astrophysics, which is the topic I have worked on, we would have assignments where it would take results from papers, not from books, but papers, and try to sort of handhold the learners through it and help them make the derivations themselves. And oftentimes in astronomy right now, there's a big push towards, I mean, you cannot avoid data. I mean, you may know all the theories, but you need confirmation with the data. And uh, even if you're training to work mostly in theory, it's very useful to know, get a feel for how data works in various fields. So we have assignments that work with, that we specially produce with, where the participants work with real astronomy data as well. And that comes to an ICT tool, a sort of, on the side, that is quite useful too, especially in fields where there's a lot of computation that happens, which is Google Collaboratory. Many of you who work on computations must already know about this. But the Google Collaboratory is just like one of the many Google offerings, where in this case, it allows you to run Python code on the server in the cloud, which means that one is not anymore restricted too much by the hardware that they have on their laptop or their desktop, but one relies on computing in the cloud of Google. And it has a fairly generous limit of how much free compute you can use. And so far, we have been doing many of these computes on Google Colab, and we have never reached a limit, for instance. So it's pretty generous. We create templates or offer uh, programs where we teach students how to use Google Colab, but eventually these assignments can be done with Google Colab. These are again examples. It's pretty good. There'll be, we rely on exercises from books as well, because many of them are pretty standard, and it is in our interest to use the available material as well. So this, for instance, is one such derivation as part of an assignment. Now, there comes a question of, when you have a large number of people taking an online course, how do you, grade these assignments? Now, for this, we adopted a strategy where we use both actual grading of the assignment that is submitted, and also sort of objective grading based on what we think they should have gotten in the assignment. So we have something, assessment quizzes that are related to the assignments. So again, as I said, the assignments are not exercises from the book that are straightforward or taken straight from a book or simple, but usually requires quite a bit of working, deriving something, or analysis of data to synthesize the information, which means we can create assignment questions like these, for instance, where we give them actual data to look at, and the question would ask some, it may not be very clear to read from there, but you can access this page, for instance, so it shouldn't later, so that you can look in slightly more detail. So this is something like match the following, something you would have encountered only in, I don't know, in primary or secondary school, but there's no reason not to use that in higher education as well, as long the content is compelling. And here, for instance, if one has worked with data, one will be able to recognize the various features that are observed in these plots. And if one hasn't, they won't be able to. And this is something you won't easily able to search and find out. But once you know that, you just match what you see with what are the options that are available. Uh, so the idea would be, there would be questions, there would be a detailed assignment, but all these questions will be based, assuming the fact that they have gotten the right answer over there. And even then, some of the questions will be just, the right answers they have gotten. And some of the questions will be inference based on how they did the assignment. So this will be automatically graded because it's objectively tested. But assignments, then once we have a partial grade through these assessment quizzes, then looking at the assignment, we just have to give a cursory view to ensure they haven't, it sort of makes sense overall. We don't have to look at the individual steps, because much of what they have gained from the assignment has been tested here objectively. We just have to look that, okay, everything looks in place, it seems okay, and no two assignments look completely identical, something like that. So we do go through them, and there's some amount of credit that is given to the assignment and some amount of credit that is given to the questions that are based on the assignment. And I think that also works pretty well in these online courses. It's not my favorite to have these timed quizzes where after a refresher course, which spans, tens of hours, we just give a quiz for 1.5 hours or 2 hours where there's a whole set of MCQ, multiple choice questions, and they have to answer a lot of these questions. But there are many times, either due to lack of manpower, one has to create uh, very thoughtful questions if one has to do, like untimed quizzes and assignments and so on, which is not always possible. So there are courses that we run where it is eh, we have to just assume that they do a lot of self-learning through the references that are given during a program, but the assessment and certification is based entirely on a little bit of attendance and maybe a lot of this timed quizzes where it's about, the questions are not necessarily the most optimal to ensure the learning has been efficient. So those are some of the things. You can ask me any questions about these. I can help you with that. But of course, you can read this article in more detail if you want, if that is something that would interest you. So next, I think coming close to, it goes to, okay, we have some time. So another article that I've created is a sort of hands-on or rather a tutorial where especially for people who haven't used Moodle or who are new to Moodle, and they want to get a feel for how various things, how this platform achieves various things related to a course and whether it is a good fit for whatever they are looking for to run a particular course. This is available through this short link, bit.ly NEP 2024 Moodle demo. I've opened it here. So it will take you to this particular site. So the great thing about one of the other great things about Moodle is that it offers people who are interested to or who want to explore this particular platform to try it out as a sandbox, which is essentially an application that is running online, but it is cut off from it. It is sort of run as a unit which doesn't stay permanent and which can be modified pretty much at will by anybody, and it doesn't affect that particular website's overall performance just because you deleted a whole bunch of things, but still gives you enough freedom to try out the whole application. So you can access it through this Moodle org/demo, or particularly that sandbox through sandbox, this particular link, sandbox.moodledemo.net. So, okay. So if you go there, this is what you will see. So this is like a sample that they have created. So you'll see that in the bottom right corner, there's a counter running, and it says that the whole site will reset in 37 minutes and it's counting down. So the idea is it helps, it allows you to pretty much change all aspects of it as you would as an administrator, as anybody with administrative privileges for this application will be able to in a real application, except because it resets, other people can try it out too. Actually, everybody is modifying this page in parallel or using this application in parallel. So you see two trial courses that are given, sample courses. It just says my first course and my second course. You could, click into any one of these. Okay, it'll ask you to log in, but as you can see down here, it gives you login IDs and login passwords for various roles. Obviously, to test it out, you would want a admin sort of role, because mine is saved here. I can just directly go there, and it's one of the sample courses that are given here. The site administration takes care if you're running multiple courses at the same time or even in different time. The point is, if you want to set up courses or change any aspect of how the whole portal looks, you go to site administration. Even here, for instance, even though they have given this sample course, in principle, it gives you have the as an administrator, you will have the option to delete the whole course or add new courses, which people do actually. It's probably being edited parallelly by many people online. And you could do, if you just sign in, go to moodledemo.net. It's a shared sandbox application that is shared with everybody online. So what you will see is this is a course that is set up according to the weeks, where each module is a week. There's enough flexibility that you can do it according to topics or any other format too that you would be interested in. But this is the central region where you would find all the idea is this is the central page for your course where you would find all the various resources or content that belongs to your course and tools to interact with the course. So I've kept this particular tutorial fairly simple. The idea would be to just to get the feel of it is to create a page containing a video lecture, which is again often the case if you're offering a course with record. At least some aspect of it is recorded lectures. A forum, as I said, online course offerings do offer this particular benefit of having a forum, a central place where all the participants can interact, discuss, and including the teachers and the administrators on various aspects of the course. Of course, the quiz or assessment is an important aspect, including the assignment-based assessment. So essentially this tutorial shows you how to set up all these 4 things using this Moodle sandbox. So if I'll just go over these briefly, and then of course, if you are really curious, you can go back later, use this particular tutorial to try it out, or just play with it. If you feel like it, just click and see what various things do, change the settings and see what changes, and you can learn a lot more. But every module, for instance, you would create, let's say you do want to follow something of a weekly module. What you would want to do is add items to it. So there is an edit mode over here, which you need to turn on before it allows you to edit, which you need to be signed in as an administrator to do. Then it would be on any week, it will be about any particular module. You'll get it just by adding this activity or resource option. It gives a default set of items that are, once your Moodle installation is done, it gives you a default set of things that are available with the application. But again, it's expandable. One can browse, you can go to the Moodle site and you can expand the selection of options you have for various activities and modules by searching third-party resources. So for instance, there is a inbuilt forum available, but in our case, we wanted a forum where it operates more like Stack Exchange, where people can upvote or downvote various comments. It helps if they are discussing some scientific thing and you want to gauge how they interact with various solutions that are provided by their fellow colleagues and all that. Then such a ranking system often helps, even for the question as it does for the answers. So there was a third-party module that was available. I think it was called Stack Overflow for Nast. I forgot the exact name, but one can easily search for it. And we had used that instead of the default forum here. But for the first one, if you want to, embed a particular video file, you just start with a page. And this is how generally most of the modules will look once you create it and go inside and try to customize it. It will ask you for a name, a description, and the content that you want to put, and a whole bunch of settings that decides how this will either appear on the main page, who all will be able to access it, whether you want to keep track of it in various ways, like using tags and so on, how you want to monitor the completion of various tasks, even if you want to just monitor whether they went to this particular page and looked at the content of the page, you can track those things here as well. So in this demo, I have explained pretty much step by step. I've given sample code that you can add as well. So ideally, you wouldn't want to, if you have a recorded video, you wouldn't want directly upload it here, because a Moodle in principle will be set in either a cloud-based storage, or a physical storage, a server in your campus, which means that you will have space restrictions. And since there are solutions like YouTube available where you can pretty much upload unlimited video and even keep them unlisted so that people cannot access it, but still you can offer it to the people you do want to offer it to. It's best to add videos as an embedded video of YouTube rather than upload it directly to Moodle. And that is what this one shows. That is what we adopted to. So normally the description, name, content, you can just type in whatever you want to see the page display. But if you want to embed something or put HTML code, then you will have to do a different one. For instance, I'll show you with this. Tools and source code. Yeah. It shouldn't come in description. It should come. So this is one of the, let's say, lectures on antenna and radiometer characteristics, part of radio astronomy. These we will leave it. I mean, this is something you can explore later if you'd like, but we'll just see how it looks. So you can set up things and say not to show on course page 2, for instance. So this is a lecture that was recorded and put on YouTube, but it's embedded now, and anybody, for instance, in this course will see that this is one of the items that have been added. Or if you go to the main page, you'll see that under the first week, this particular page has been added. You go inside and you see this video, and you can play, watch it right there. Of course, depending on how much more information you want to put, you can directly modify this. You just go into the settings of the page again, anytime you want, add any description in regular text format. It allows just simply copy pasting rich text format as well. That is, if you want to have bold, italics, or simple formatting that is allowed in rich text format, you can just copy paste it. But of course, you can use HTML and get more creative as well. You can put equations, whatever you want over there. Whatever is allowed on the web is pretty much allowed here. Now, the next one is creating a forum where, I mean, again, the tasks are fairly similar. Clicking on adding a activity or module, then selecting the module you're interested in, let's say the default forum, giving it a name. The In a module, you want to have some guidelines of how they want to use it, which is just basic common sense stuff. First of all, how to just use it so that people who are not used to it do know how to use it, but also to maintain a certain amount of professionalism in how you interact with people and so on. So it has, let's say, etiquettes, rules for online discussion, and so on. And excuse me, the scholar in the description, you could give it um, the rules or general guidelines that you want them to follow. There is various other options depending on the module you do. For instance, in a forum, you would want to have options for subscription tracking, which means whenever somebody posts a question or whenever somebody answers your question and things like that, you can get an email reply or get an email sent from the site to your email address. And things like that. That's what these are. You could allow attachments. You could fix the character size, how much each question or answer box could be, and things like that as well. And you set it up, it's available. And adding new topics would be as simple as but it will just appear as this. Just like, I mean, you must have seen forums. And one can, of course, reply to these as well. Let's see. You go inside and then reply to it. Yeah, for many of you, it might be basic if you already are using such things. This is just for the benefit of people who may consider using this in the future. So setting up the quiz, it allows a lot of options. As I said, the type of quizzes themselves are quite a lot. The format of the quiz questions themselves, there are quite a few available. But it also avails multiple ways of setting up a quiz. We'll just show the module instead of going too much into it. But so there's a quiz module. It maintains its own quiz bank from which you can import it. The first one would be just setting up the general rules and setting up the page for the quiz, obviously. Where you'll set a question, you will obviously have sample quiz rules, which will just go into description. Yeah. Or the topic, whichever. The timing is what I was mentioning about. You could set up the open quiz time, close quiz time. You can schedule it right in the beginning of your course as well, so that you don't have to think about it just before when you want to offer. It is made visible only at the time that you have set it. And there's obviously an option to have a time limit. This is for the timed quizzes, which you can enable. But if you don't want it, you don't have to do that. In which case, it will be available till the date of the close time. They can come and do it anytime they want. So it has automatic grading as well, which again, all goes to a central grade book. Whatever you offer and you designate to have a grade be assigned it all automatically gets logged into a grade book where the user information will be there, the total, everything will also be there, which I won't go into because it takes quite some time to show and explain. You can have various options of, question behavior, whether you want to shuffle it, whether you want to show it in different pages and all. There are a whole bunch of review options, whether you want to show the answer. Ideally, I want to show the answer only after the quiz is closed for everybody, but depending on what type of assessment or learning module it is, you can try to show it immediately after somebody attempts, or when the quiz is still open for others, but they have finished, a particular person has finished the quiz and so on. So it's highly customizable and the options are essentially endless. Once you set it up, you can add questions either manually, one by one. You just say add and add a new question. And here is all the options. Calculated multiple choice, calculated simple. I assume this allows you to give multiple answers. There's drag and drop image. I don't know. I've never used many of these as well. The essay kind, matching, multiple choice I've used, numerical I've used. Ordering, I don't remember. Maybe this option is relatively new. Um, Short answer, true or false, descriptive, everything it has. Yeah. So if you want to add a new question manually, you would say multiple choice also works as multiple selection. So that is why there's only one option. Your question goes here. No, okay, there's just a question title, which is you would say, let's say Q1 or Q2 or something like that. You would ask a question here. You assign a default mark for it. General feedback optional again, but the answers again, something where it supports a whole range of formats for the answers themselves. As I showed one of the examples, I had put images of plots. You could do similar things. You can add various different things as the answer choices and assign a grade. This is where the partial grading comes in, where you can add 100% for one, which means it's a multiple choice, but otherwise it's a multiple selection. It allows a whole range of negative marking too. But the negative marking is only up to the maximum of this particular uh, of the total. There's no real negative marking in the sense that you cannot get anything below zero. But you can, if you get two selections right and get 50%, your negative marking can take it at max to zero. Uh, at minimum to zero. It cannot go lower than. The other would be to, okay, let's not go through with this. You cancel it. The other option is to do it from a question bank, which you can set up and populate with questions. Okay, the question bank is not set up here. The question bank is available here. And what you would do is essentially you would import questions based on a format, which one of the best I've tried is the gift format, which is the example that I showed in that article that I wrote, where you could write it in simple text format, give identify the questions according to the syntax, question and the answers. You can assign partial credit to various answers depending again on the format. All this I've explained here as well. So all you have to do is there's something called the gift format. And if you follow this link, for instance, it'll tell you how the syntax of it. So all you have to do is whatever questions you have to convert this into this syntax, which I mean, it's really straightforward because it's just text. And then once you have it, you put it in a text file, and then you upload it through this interface, import the questions, and it automatically gets wait. Instead of import, if you see the just the questions in the question bank, it will show up, which I'm not doing right now. But if you want to follow this tutorial, I've given a sample of questions that can be copied and pasted. For instance, these questions. All you would have to do is copy it, paste it into a text file, then use that interface to upload it, and it will be populated in the question bank. And once that question bank is populated, one can add questions from the question bank, which again, I won't show because of time. The next one is fairly trivial compared to the quiz one. Quiz one has the most options. That's why I've shown the preview and everything. Assignment submission is just like, collecting some file, uh, PDF files or document files. First, you will have the assignment itself in HTML format or PDF format available in that assignment page for them to download, and then guidelines of what they need to follow, when is the deadline, and so on, which is also again set in those modules. So that is how you would set it up. So this link again, the tutorial, you can follow it by through this link and try it out if you're interested. And if you'll notice, I mean, there's another little tool I thought it's worth mentioning just because all that you saw, the whole tutorial was created in this tool called Gitbook. People who are not very, savvy with HTML technologies or setting up sites and so on, they can also, in very short period of time, create online material or make their course material available online as a web page through this application called Gitbook. So I'll just briefly show how it looks. So you just go to gitbook.com and create a account and try to see what the interface looks like. So it will create a account. It's free. You go inside and it'll have an interface such as this. So this is what I used to simply create this site with this tutorial. Sorry, this one. And there you just simply add a site or a space, and within that you can add multiple pages which are just available as different tabs for different content. It's, I mean, it doesn't allow a lot of customization, but that is sort of to the benefit of the person who wants to just display simple information. For instance, the course information, other than the lectures, let's say you're not trying to do the Moodle, you just want to put your course content online, your course notes, your exercises, assignments, and some notes and things like that. Then this solution is nearly perfect. Where it takes about 15 minutes or half an hour at most, if you depending on the content you want to put in. All you have to do is, go there, create a title, put in the information, create various pages, depending on how you want to organize the information. And so all that involves is, let's say you want to create a space, create a new space. You'll get a page title. And this again, just like we saw, Moodle has different blocks. It has various types of content you can put in, mostly to do with, appearance of how it looks. For instance, you can add code blocks, the ones where I copy pasted various content just from the blog, for instance, in this. So this is like a code block where I have put the gift format text in there, which can be easily found. You can have, dividers, you can create task list, various sorts of lists. Of course, you can upload images, embed URL, include tables, cards, various things. But not everything, obviously, but still plenty to create a simple website where you want to just post your content. And I think it's pretty much free. There must be some limit which you cannot exceed, but it's set to be pretty high. It also allows LaTeX sort of syntaxing if you want to include equations. Using a JavaScript library called MathJax, it can show it without you having to resort to making images. You can type things in the LaTeX format like so. And if you want to change it, you just change it. For people who know LaTeX and who know this, so you can easily add this and show it as native HTML file. The idea is you create such things, it's easily expandable. You can add more content at any time. The idea is then you can eventually share it by by just publishing it to the web. You click on create a new site and it generates a site. And that is how I generated this one. So that's again a quick thing that pretty much you can use this weekend if there's a solution you're looking for. Okay, we are nearly at the end. We are at the end. So these are, I mean, I just wanted to focus on some of the things we have been using here, and I'm sure many of you might find them useful too. At this point, I would like some feedback on what are the sort of problems you face that you would be looking for a ICT sort of solution. There are many tools, obviously, just like everyone else. I use a lot of tools too that I haven't covered here, but we can have a discussion since we have a lot of teachers from various regions and various universities. You can do two things. One is if you have a problem that requires an ICT solution, you can bring it up, and not just me, anybody can answer depending on their experience. And the other thing is if there are some tools that you have used that you swear by, that you think are great and it solves an important problem and you would highly recommend to others, just like I'm doing for Getbook over here, then you can mention that as well. I'm sure that will be quite useful for everybody. So thanks a lot for patiently sitting through the presentation. I hope it was useful to some of you, especially to whom all these things are new. Now I'll take questions and also comments and suggestions, as I mentioned, about the sort of information communication technology tools that you regularly use or are looking to use to solve a particular problem. Thank you very much. Any comments? So you could just let me know what are the sort of tools that you use or something that you're looking for. What are MOOCs? MOOCs just refer to massively online. No, I'm sorry, exact acronym I forgot. Massively online open courses or something like that. Let me search one. I've completely forgotten. Massive open online courses. Okay, close enough. So the idea is, I mean, Coursera used to be quite famous. I don't know whether it still is. That pretty much started the whole thing. The idea is you create a course that is available online. Pretty much anybody from anywhere around the world can take it. That's what makes it massive and open and online, as it says. Yeah, Agarwala, you can mute yourself and ask.
Yes, I have a question not directly related to this topic, but it is about that ABC ID and upper ID. How will it work and how these courses will be transferred or something?
Oh,
Do
the
you know?
academic bank of courses, actually, I'm not too familiar with it. I was going to ask myself yesterday whether it has already been implemented or at what stage it is.
Okay.
We,
Because nowadays, these for student registration, this ID is mandatory.
Oh, is it? Yeah, I actually this particular aspect of or this one I'm not too familiar. Sorry, but if Hiten, I'm not sure whether he'll discuss it. But yesterday, Professor Aniket Sule would have been best to in the best position to probably answer that. You could probably write to them if you
Okay.
want. Mhm. Thanks, Professor Rajagopalan, for this long list of things I assume you've been using to engage with students. Mentimeter, Slack, Padlet. Actually, I'm not familiar with many some of these. Mentimeter, for instance, or Padlet. WordPress or Google Sites, yes. For a full-fledged site, I would say WordPress and Google Sites work very well. Best part of Moodle, it allows instructor to trace progress of each student. Yes, that's true. Net logo for simulations for science and humanities both. Okay, this particular one I haven't looked at. For astronomy simulations, we use Java Lab and University of Nebraska Lincoln Interactives. Engage with simulations. Huh? Yeah. But Net logo is something I assume is worth looking into, especially because it covers both science and humanities. Professor Santosh Agarwala, your university has its own LMS platform. I assume isn't it based on Moodle? Dr. Leena Modi, you can unmute yourself and ask a question or comment. Charu Mehta in the chat is in resume. It is asked whether MOOCs created. Oh, you mean while
Hello,
creating a
sir.
yes, yes, Dr. Modi.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Yeah, I'm a commerce teacher
Okay.
and I use Canva for short video making.
Oh, okay. This is non-recorded
Uh,
video, recording your video.
no, actually, it is a non recorded video, sir. Just I put the sentences, add sentences in that.
Animating stuff, text
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes,
okay,
yes,
okay.
yes, yes.
And Canva is great. Yeah,
And
it's
thank,
not an option.
and thank you, sir. The session was nice, really informative. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Mm, okay. I mean, it'd be nice if more people share what all the sort of tools you're using. For instance, I mean, it helps everybody. For instance, here Professor Rajagopalan has shared or the list of things he has been using. So some of us can take note if you're interested in, simulations for science and humanities uh, or other things that have been listed. What is the WAC platform for exams? I'm not aware of that, Professor Mehta. Is it something your university
It
uses?
is a back platform. Generally, Parul University used to conduct that is exams using back platform.
Okay,
That concept Parul University it is using on that is especially Corona session when strict online was there. So and question paper also used to set up and the time duration was set up and at that particular time the paper used to publish and
okay.
with the help student is copying or what that is some access were there
Oh, okay.
so uh, so this platform back platform Parul University was using
So they created it themselves, or it's private company's platform that they were using?
or maybe private companies platform might be
Okay.
uh,
It's a service that they were using.
Means it can be multiple choice questions, can be uh, mm, uh, framed, and short answer can also be framed, figure all, and that also can be framed with this tool.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, yeah. At this point, I should mention that the Moodle, what I did not go much into, which I might have explained in one of these posts, is that it requires some skill setting it up. So you would have to rely if you want to set it up in your university for use, There are online services available where you pay a certain amount to use it monthly. Otherwise, you'll have to set it up with the help of your local computer department,
Yes, yes.
in the sense IT department,
Mm,
and they will have to help
mm,
you set it up.
yes.
Okay. Yeah. No other comments or questions? I'll stop sharing. Okay, I guess then we'll take a break for about 10 minutes and then you can join back by the time Professor Hiten Chaudhary should have joined as well. The stream will keep running, so you can stay logged in. One challenge is to keep the students hooked to the course when done in a self-paced mode. And with the huge batch size, it can turn out challenging to establish that. Connect to a virtual platform. Yeah, the main problem I see, I mean, the content needs to be compelling, of course, and the some sort of regular activity is more likely to keep people engaged than some sort of sparsely paced activity, in terms of something that requires their engagement, not just listening to courses, listening to recorded lectures, or giving them a reading assignment. But I've thought about it. We have some programs in the planning where we want to create something that, especially at the research level, something that people can engage for over 6 months and learn significant amount of content by self-learning. And there the challenge is retaining people, where I assume that if there is some sort of regular interaction, which shouldn't also be so critical that if they miss one, then they are already uh, lagging back in the course. But there's enough flexibility that whenever they have time, they are able to engage effectively. And there's some flexibility in terms of when they're supposed to finish various tasks. But that is being, let's say, stretched over a course of 6 months. It might be possible. We haven't tried it, but I would like to try that. So yeah, that engagement part, as long as one gets it, there's a better chance of holding people. Otherwise, because they are usually this is online course often is not one of the main things they're doing. So if something else comes in their work or uh, in their coursework where it takes a lot of time, then there's a high chance that they will lose pace in the online program. So yeah, it is a challenge, as you point out.